This is Suit Up Sports. Suit Up Sports. Where opinions are as sharp as a tailored suit. No fluff, no gimmicks, just unfiltered, hard-hitting takes on sports and a whole lot more. It's time to suit up. Now here's your host, DJ the Suit Stout.
Suit Up Sports. I'm DJ the Suit Stout, along with 10-year NFL vet Frank Garcia. Frank, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. What a great weekend to come off. Had some unbelievably good weather the last couple of days.
Yeah, we did.
Had some great sports to watch. There's a lot to talk about. The Hornets are in the playoffs, or at least in the play-in game. I guess we can consider that the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Masters, the draft. I mean, there's a lot looking forward to here in Charlotte, and what a great weekend.
Yeah, the Masters, we'll start there because I know that you and I were both glued to that all weekend. You know, you and I played golf Friday morning and came off the course and were able to, watch the afternoon rounds Friday. And by the end of Friday, we all thought, my goodness, no one's catching Rory. He had a 6-stroke lead. He looked as relaxed as I've ever seen him. Every interview that I saw with him appeared so different than any that I'd seen before, where, starting with the quote after day one, when they said, what are you going to do now that your round's over? He said, well, I'm going to go put on my green jacket, go up to the cabin and have a couple cocktails and then relax, and he just seemed to have that once he got that monkey off his back, not only winning the Masters, but the Grand Slam last year. It just seems that he came into this and the last 3 weeks, he didn't play any tournament. He just flew not every morning, but I think 3 mornings he flew on his jet to the Masters, played in Augusta, played the course, and then flew back in time to pick his daughter up from school, which is another question that we'll talk about. Is that's definitely an advantage. And he even said after the tournament yesterday that he he never questioned the fact that he was going to be able to handle this course regardless of what shot because he was so familiar with it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And getting the monkey off his back last year, I think, played a big role in his preparation. He also, went through a time where meditation and, a coach was really kind of getting him to that next level when it came to this tournament in particular. He had won 3 of the 4. This was the final notch on his belt to complete the Grand Slam, to become the 6th guy to ever do that. And there was a lot of challenges. I mean, he went through a stretch of, 10, 12 years where it was almost to the point that it wasn't fun anymore. And there is a really, really, really good documentary on him chasing the Masters. It's called on Netflix or on Paramount, one of those two, but or maybe Amazon. I'm not sure where it's at, but if you look it up, it's Rory chasing the Masters in 2025. And it does a great job of talking about his mental state and him growing up from, 8-year-old little boy idolizing Tiger Woods to the amount of times that he went out there and played and practiced and put himself in position, and how his dad, kind of worked with him, very similar to, what we saw with Tiger, maybe not as controlling as what Earl Woods was with Tiger, but he gave a lot of credit to his parents and his dad in particular. But more importantly is that he found within himself, the ability to not quit. And you could see last year when he won his first one, the emotions come out and it was relief. It wasn't like, anything else that you've ever seen. And it's like he just broke down and let out this roar, because if you've ever had to struggle with anything, and you go back and you try it differently and you do it, it means so much to you.
No doubt.
Right. And you want to do it so badly that it hurts, and you keep failing and you keep failing and you keep failing, but you keep getting back up. And that's what Rory did. And I think that paid dividends in this year's Masters. Towards the end in particular, he never panicked. The big saying in golf is, especially when it comes to Masters, you're not going to win the golf. You're not going to win the tournament on Thursday or Friday,
right?
But you could lose it. Rory actually won the tournament on Friday when he got that big lead, and he just hung on to it. He did everything he needed to do. He handled all the emotions. He knew, and I think a lot of people knew, that was going to be a number that was going to be tough to catch because of how difficult the course was playing, how hard it was, and how fast it was. And I just don't think people realize the amount of pressure as a professional athlete. It's just different than you can even explain, but then you ratchet it up a notch. Like it's their Super Bowl.
Right.
And you put them on one of the most difficult courses with all the undulation and all the break, even though they have history and they've seen the course and they know the break and they know where the holes are and they know how it's the pressure, just a hair, it could get you a double bogey, triple bogey. And even as the group that we were watching, DJ, the comments were, oh, he's won the tournament with 2 holes to go. No.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had a 2-shot lead, and one little putt, one little misstep can easily lead to a double bogey on any of those holes out there.
Yeah.
So you give him a lot of credit, and it was a great tournament. And the fact that, I think I was more disappointed in other players than I was excited to see Rory win it. Scheffler was at 9 under at the start of the round, or right around there. After like the second or third hole, he got to 9 under and didn't sniff it until the last couple of holes. So he never really put pressure on him.
Well, you mentioned a couple things that I want to talk about. Number one, Rory winning the tournament on Friday because Scotty lost the tournament on Friday. He beat Rory by 11 strokes on the weekend. Yep. 11 strokes. But Friday he played bad and it cost him. He still got to the point where a birdie putt that just about went in on 18, I believe it was, maybe it was 17, would have forced a playoff the way that Rory finished with a bogey. But, you're right. I think Rory won it on Friday, and I think Scotty lost it on Friday because, again, he beat Rory by 11 strokes on the weekend. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is I read an article this morning talking about Rory and his preparation. He has a very stingent schedule every day. No caffeine after 2:00. Doesn't eat, 2 hours before he goes to bed. Sauna, cold, all the stuff.
He has a routine.
A routine. And he wears a Whoop. And if you don't know what a Whoop is, and I've worn one for a while, I stopped wearing it because I didn't like what it was telling me, to be honest with you. But it's like a watch, and it tells you everything: your sleep, your everything, your calories burned, your heart rate, your resting heart rate, everything.
I thought it was like based on that song.
Whoop. No,
there it is.
If it was that, I might keep wearing it. But yesterday during his round, his resting heart rate during the round was like 50.
Mm-hmm.
When the highest it got was on the tee box on the 18th hole. It got up to 118, or no, excuse me, I think it was like 125, 130. And then when he went in celebration, it got up to like 150. But can you imagine, like, my resting heart rate is never lower than probably 80.
And maybe that's the reason why you make double bogeys and triple bogeys on
that's why golf and me don't get along,
right?
Because I can't relax. Even when I'm trying to. This dude had a resting heart rate of 50. Like, I think I would have to call it 911 if my resting heart rate got to that that low. It's amazing.
It's crazy. I'm an avid golfer, as you know, and it's called, when you get into that zone, right? You're not thinking about anything except for one or two things, but the trouble doesn't exist. It's literally like, like they show on television when you're watching these great golf shows, whether it's Legend of Bagger Vance and, one of the guys gets up there and it's like everything's talking, but then when he goes up to the tee box, it goes,
yeah,
and it zooms out on everything and all the distraction around him, and he's hyper focused on, just making those one or two swing thoughts. And I really, really believe that, Rory would listen to a lot of motivational speeches and things like that, trying to win his 2025 Masters. But that preparation has paid dividends in even this one, because it just taught him patience. It taught him how to stay within yourself. And he still had the opportunity to hit some big shots. I mean, some of the shots he hit, the 9-iron over the tree was incredible. I don't know if you remember the 7-iron last year on 15 that he hooked around.
Yeah.
He ended up missing the putt and making birdie, but it was for eagle. And it was probably the best shot of the day. But even on 12, this round, he was the closest within everybody on the day, because it was just using his ability and really kind of just having fun again. And I think that's what he really, pointed to in winning. And, I think, you start looking at history of golf and you start, obviously Tiger and Jack, and you see, some of the greats that are up there, Arnold, Bobby Jones, Hogan, all the big names of golf, right? The tier, that is like above Mickelson, that's above everybody else, right? I think it's obviously the very top of the pyramid. It's Tiger, Jack. You can either go A or B, or slash. They're what they've done. The accomplishments are incredible, but they're on top of the pyramid by themselves. Those two, but then there's that next tier, right? And that next tier was where you find like the Hogans and the Palmers and the players, and the next tier of really, really, really great golfers, Bobby Jones, and the guys that have won multiple championships and have been there and are the face of golf forever, right? And Rory wasn't there, in my opinion, yet. He was back maybe a little, and I think him and Phil are kind of on that same level. Are they at that next tier, or are they on that third tier of where do you put them? But if you're going to put them on the third tier, they'll be at the top of the third tier, but they very easily could be on that second tier because of their accomplishments, what they've meant for the game. And Rory still got some more majors in him.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And he becomes just the fourth player to ever win back-to-back Masters with Tiger, Faudo, and Nicklaus. It's three of the guys that would be on those tiers that you just mentioned. A couple of the other guys that and
only the sixth player ever to complete the Grand Slam, and do that. And that was obviously he did it last year, but that was, again, that's where you start looking. And now you add to that, right? Yeah. You're adding to his legacy. You're adding, it's like you're adding to the greatness of what he's doing and the accomplishments that he has. They keep stacking up and they keep growing, because I thought for a while there, Rory was done.
Well, he went, it seemed like a few years where, he'd win here or there, but nothing. He wasn't winning majors.
He was dealing with so much mentally. And I'm telling you, I'd urge anybody listening, or you or all our friends, go watch that documentary, because it's not just a great documentary on Rory itself, but it's a great documentary on the testimony of failing and then succeeding and working hard. And I'm going to have my son watch it. I want him to see it, because that's not just sports, that's life. That's what we deal through with every day. And it's interesting how golf, how football, how sports relates to our everyday life and the lessons that we can take. And, that was obviously one of the ones that stood out for me in that documentary. And I think one of the big ones, and a testament to, the perseverance of a guy that wasn't going to let other people tell him no, that he couldn't do it. So, it was like, follow your dream and dream big, and don't ever let anybody tell you can't
well,
do
and
it.
And the most impressive thing to me about the whole thing was, honestly, I think it was after the ninth hole, maybe he was down 3 strokes. So you were looking at him, this going down as maybe one of the epic collapses we've ever seen.
Well, he's already done that,
which he's been there before, and we've seen that. But he
had a 6-shot lead going into the weekend.
Instead, he digs in and got the lead back pretty quick. Justin Rose helped him with that with a couple bad shots, but then took it to the end where he put himself in a position from being down 3. Then he put him in a position where he didn't have to force anything those last 2 holes. He could just, he could afford to have a bogey on that last hole where he did have a bad drive, and so
he had a 2-shot lead going into 18 and has arguably one of the biggest misses I've seen, other than maybe ducking it into the woods on the left or just missing it. I mean, he missed so bad that it was almost good.
Right. Well, he hits it so far that he outran a lot of the trouble. And that's one of the things they were talking about today, is that, he hits it so far that it allows him to outrun a lot of what other golfers would be stuck in prison. He hits it just so far.
I mean, I don't know if that means a lot to you as far, obviously we all, want to drive the ball 300 yards, right? That's like our number. These guys on number 9, on number 8, on an average drive, they're 182 ball speed, 183 ball speed. I think Rory's like 185, 186, and probably can get up to 187, 180.
Yeah.
Or 190 or close to that. But that's the equivalent of 360 yards. I mean, they're carrying the ball 310, 300, 315 yards. They're carrying the ball that far. So to your point, Rory didn't – I thought that, he was going to take a 3-wood, play it to the middle, control the flight, just like he did on 17, hit a little low stinger. I thought it was going to be a similar shot, either blow it over those bunkers on the left or just keep it short and just hit something short. But he went for it, and he took a big swing. And fortunately for him, he hit it so far, he almost hit it onto 10 fairway.
We thought that's what he was going to do, is just play his next shot up the 10 fairway and then just come across. Yep. But he, it was unbelievable. And now Scheffler will be going for his Grand Slam, in the net. What is it? The U.S. Open that he hasn't won. I can't remember. But
I'm not sure which one.
I think he's got it coming up soon. So anyway, it was a hell of a Masters, and as much drama, you always know when you watch the Masters, for the most part, except that one year when Tiger, I think, ran away by 19 or whatever it was. You always know that on Sunday there's going to be some drama. And when
it was a great leaderboard.
Justin Rose, when he took the lead late in the day, he would have been the oldest by 4 years to ever win the Masters.
No, he'd have been the second. Jack won it at 46. He would have been the second oldest. Tiger did it at 42, I believe, who was the second oldest. He would have surpassed Tiger and been in the second spot.
Yeah, and I like him, so I wouldn't have minded seeing him hang on, but he lost that lead pretty quick. But yeah, it was great drama, and I'm sure all the golf courses in Charlotte and wherever you're watching or listening from were pretty packed, because you can't help to get the bug. I know you play golf a lot, and you were talking about how this makes your golf bug go up 100 times.
100. I mean, you get the 80-degree weather out of here. Yeah. You get the azaleas blooming. Charlotte has great golf courses, especially in the spring. It's my favorite time to play golf out here. Watching the Masters like that, it makes you feel like, I was fortunate enough to play that course several times. So it makes me feel like the golfing season has started, and it gives me something to do.
Yeah, I played 3 times last week, and you're feeling like your golfing season is starting, and I'm feeling like my golfing career has ended, because I don't know if I ever want to play golf again. But
I've heard that a lot from you.
I know. It'll go away, hopefully, but hopefully so.
Hopefully it doesn't go away like the Hornets go away.
Yeah, well, Hornets is next on the list, and the Hornets start off the season slowly. They figured
terribly, not slowly.
Yeah, terribly.
They were terrible.
But then
they look like the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah, we thought, here we go again.
Yep.
We won't be watching them after the first month of the season.
We'll be
waiting for the ping pong balls.
Yep.
Well, then they figured it out, and their rookie Contender led the NBA in 3-pointers this year, which the rookie's never done before. He's broken all kinds of records, maybe the rookie of the year. Brandon Miller and LaMelo stay healthy the majority of the season and have great seasons. And all of a sudden, this team starts creeping to the point where we start going, man, they could make the play-in game for sure, maybe even the playoffs. And they ran into a really tough schedule the last 2 weeks of the season. Luckily, they had built big enough cushion to assure themselves a spot in the play-in game. And now here we are on a Monday in April, and the Hornets host a play-in game tomorrow night against the Miami Heat. And
so they're the 9 seed.
We're the 9 seed. Miami's the 10 seed. So
the situation with the seeding and the games and the playing games, because it's confusing. It was so confusing. The 9-10 game is a loser leave town match. You're done with the season.
Correct.
If you win the 7-8 game, it's a double elimination, it's a double elimination, right? No, it's a one game. If the 7 or 8 seed win, they're in.
Correct.
And then the 8 seed or whoever loses that game plays the winner of the 9-10.
Correct.
And then that's a loser leave town.
Correct.
Match.
So if we win, we'll play the loser of Orlando, Philadelphia. And if we win that, we'll be the 8th seed, and we would play Detroit in the first round of the playoffs.
That's correct.
So, listen, Miami, I think we're 1-3 against them this year. It's the worst matchup of the 4 teams, although Philadelphia wouldn't have been, any walk in the park either.
Well, at this point, I mean, they're pretty much all going to be dogfights. Well, with a young team,
the Hornets are the biggest spread in the playing games at -5.5, which was kind of surprising. Like I said, the way that they've struggled against Miami this year. Miami, from a matchup standpoint with Bam Adebayo, he has done work against the Hornets. He's a big, strong dude that can shoot the 3. He can take you inside. He makes his free throws. So, it's a tough matchup, but
he is the worst matchup for Diabate that we can have. I mean,
Embiid was pretty tough too. But
well, Embiid would be another one.
Guys,
but
yeah.
you know, I think the difference between him and Embiid is that he wants to rub it in your face and slam it down your throat. Embiid will just he'll do it. Maybe there was a time when he had that dog in him and would play the way that Abendeo plays. But I mean, this guy, he plays the game old school, right? But he can shoot the outside, like you said.
Had 86 points in the game this year, or something crazy
it was a lot of free throws. Yes,
54.
And 54 free throws. But the guy is a bona fide player, right? Yep. He's a star, and he gets to the free throw line. And I think that's the one thing that in the playoffs that this Hornet team is really going to miss, is that I feel like, obviously regular season NFL and playoffs are a little bit different. The level of intensity goes up. Teams are playing for 4 quarters now. In the regular season, I feel like they play the first 5, they kind of slough off, and they play the last 5, and they kind of just it's a marathon, not a sprint, with playing 82 games. But when you get to the playoffs, especially this is basically a game 7.
Yeah.
For the Hornets and for the Heat, I mean, you're going to get everything you have, and bench is going to factor into it. How you handle pressure is going to factor into it, because these other athletes that may have been kind of sloughing off during the regular season, their level is going to pick up. And I think that's the one thing that I'm concerned about, as you are, I'm sure as well, is the speed and the intensity of these games is going to really, really change. And I think I think a lot of analysts would agree with this, is that the Hornets' biggest challenge right now is ball handling, right? And LaMelo is okay at it. He's pretty good. He can be a difference maker. But when it comes down to crunch time, there's not one guy on this roster, I feel like, that is going to take the ball in his hand and say, put it on my shoulders. I'm going to get to the free throw line or make this shot.
Well, it's amazing the parallels between the Hornets and the Panthers. When the Panthers had a surprising season this year and got into the playoffs, we talked about the fact that to be a really good team and to win a Super Bowl, you've got to get over these hurdles, and losing in the playoffs is part of there's not a team that's won the Super Bowl that didn't experience that. And the Hornets, same thing. They made the play-in game, which they don't really count that as a playoffs, but they're in the position to get there. And, we lack experience. Our coach is not coaching the playoffs, where you look across to Miami, Bam's won rings, Spoelstra's won rings. There's just a lot more experience over there. So that's the other thing that I want. It'll be interesting to see how we come out, because I do think we'll come out with all guns blazing. And if we're hitting the threes, then I think that we've got every chance to win this game.
I don't think we don't have a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like, DJ, like I said, the level of intensity is going to pick up, and the Heat have a difference maker in the middle that they don't have to slough off the outside when and if they get beat on the ball, with the dribble, right? I just said I don't think we have really that guy that can take it to the hole and finish. And if we get past that first wave of defense with the ball handler, you got a big center sitting right there that you're going to have to get by as well. And typically what happens is that, the wings collapse and everybody collapses, and you can kick it to the outside, and there's going to be a wide open shot, but nobody's going to leave Knipple. I mean, you're locked on him, and wherever he goes, you got a piece of his jersey.
Yep.
Right. And, same thing with Miller. I mean, they're going to be on him. When you see Melo bringing the ball down, Miller goes to the right, Kahn goes to the left, or vice versa, depending on what side they're shooting hot from. And then you spread them out, and then you got your big guy in the middle, run the picks off of, and, you either break down the defense, you run the pick and roll, or you kick. And, that's kind of, what Miami is going to be able to defend. I mean, they're going to be able to defend that with their big guy inside. And I think it's going to be really tough for us to get our 3-point shots off.
We're going to need 2 of the 3 hitting threes.
Something's going to have to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have 2 of those big 3 hitting everything they throw up. And then the to me, the big difference maker in this game, again, if the Hornets win, is a guy that we haven't had the 4 times that we've played them, and that's Kobe White. And he has been off the bench. He's been everything we hoped he would be when we traded for him. A dynamic scorer who can get to the hole, who can get to the free throw line, who can hit 3-pointers, and can handle the ball in crunch time. having him against the Heat to me could be a huge difference maker, because our bench struggled all year long, and then we get him, and he's just made it a lot more dynamic where, you see him playing with the starters quite a bit, especially on the games he's been hot. He's in the game. He's really not a bench player. He started his whole career for the most part. So it'll be interesting to see as well as what kind of difference that makes now, having a guy like him come off the bench as a fourth weapon when it comes to a lethal scorer. Miami, Tyler Hero here in Charlotte about a month ago, if you remember.
I was there. I was at the game.
I mean, I forget what he finished with, but 36.
They couldn't miss.
Couldn't miss. Crazy shots. And so now having Kobe White off the bench, I think is going to help a lot. And here's the thing I'm excited about. Again, this is a young team. We have 2 first-round draft choices in the top 20 this year. We've got salary cap money. We've got 3 young players who are none of them hit their peak yet. We have Kobe White, who's a young player who they're gonna, from what everybody says, they're gonna resign. And the arena, I'll call it the Hive because that's what it was called growing up. The last 3 months, that place has been loud, and these fans have been into it, and they've been selling out. I think they broke their sellout record this year. And tomorrow night, that place is gonna be nuts. And Miles Bridges said it after the game last night. He's like, "Look, we need all the Hornet fans there. I don't want to see one Miami Heat jersey in the whole place." Well, of course, there's going to be some, but let's hope it's few and far between.
We're not quite there yet, Miles.
Right.
Sorry,
but I see what you're saying, and
we got to win. We got to give them some hope before we start selling out.
I think tomorrow night,
the playoffs.
I think tomorrow night, a lot of even the old school Hornet fans who maybe just got back interested this year when we started playing well are going to be there. So,
well, the good things for us, it's not the Knicks, it's not the Celtics, it's the Heat, and the Heat historically do not travel. It's not D Wade and LeBron and Bosh. That's not this Heat team. They're still good, but they ain't traveling to Charlotte for that game.
But I can tell you, just like when the Panthers started playing well this year, made the playoffs, the stadium was packed and loud, and it was a home field advantage. Tomorrow night, if you haven't been to a Hornet game back in the day, and when I say back in the day, it's been a long time.
It was the Hive was buzzing.
It's going to be loud, and these fans get into it, and this team will feed off of that. Now, whether or not that's enough to put them over the edge, we'll see. Obviously, they got to hit their threes. But I'm just excited for the entire. I'm excited for the atmosphere. I'm excited that we have a shot at it.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but the last time we made the playoffs was either 2014, 2015, Kemba Walker, and we got swept by the Heat.
Yeah, I was at the game where Dwayne Wade had done nothing, and one of Charlotte's fans on the side of the court would not leave him alone and pissed him off. And then he went off and hit about 30 on us.
But if you remember that series and you remember all the others, it's going to be a very close game, in my opinion. The difference between the Heat and the Hornets in that year was they had a guy that could take over the game in Wade. He could get to the free throw line. He was going to get the favored calls. He was a superstar. He was going to get the calls from the ref. And in that last 3 minutes, when the game was on the line, it was clear out, and here comes Wade, right? And you had to stop him. The Hornets played hard. They were close. They fought. It was a great game. We had the ups and downs. I think we had a lead. And every one of those games, it was just like that, right? And every one of those games, it was a nail biter. But at the very end, they had the playmakers that could go out there and make the plays. I think in order for us to win, LaMelo Ball is going to have to be on his A game, but we're going to have great contributions, from guys like, and I know you said Kobe White coming off the bench, and yes, I agree. He's going to be a guy that can instant offense, but Miles Bridges is a guy, because of the way that they're going to play Miller and Knueppel, is going to be kind of the unforgotten guy, right? And he has the ability to get hot and make some shots from the outside, and so does Grant Williams. Those two guys, I think, are going to be the X factor in the game. We know what you're going to get with Kobe. They're going to go out there and they're going to play just like they would if he was Melo, right? They're going to, but the two guys that are predominantly going to be open on the outside, especially if you have a point guard that can get past and beat that first level of defense, it's going to be Grant Williams on the outside, and it's going to be Miles Bridges. And if you remember the last time they played here in Charlotte, right, it was still a close game. Those guys just got cold from the outside. They couldn't hit a shot. And I kept asking myself, why do they keep? I mean, they're wide open shots. You got to knock them down.
Had one of them days.
You got to knock them down. And I think that's what it's going to come down to in this game for the Hornets. And if they can get past this game, DJ, I think they have a really good chance of beating the loser of the next game.
I mean, I would think
either one of those
Orlando, because I think Orlando we would definitely have a great shot to win. Philadelphia's lineup is stocked. They've had injuries all year long, but they're healthy now. And we saw Paul George come back his first game after suspension and light us up.
I was at that game too.
Lit us up.
That was a huge. That game. We were tied. We were tied with the Sixers.
Well, where that game killed us more than anything was the fact that we lost at the very end, but also the very next day we played the Celtics here. So we were exhausted after that game, and the Celtics, that's the game Tatum just wore us out. But, I feel that you mentioned Grant Williams, and I think that's another guy that I didn't think about, because he does have a lot of playoff experience. He does bring toughness to this team. He is going to be able to pull a guy aside.
They're going to have to rotate with him. I mean,
and he can shoot, and it's
Kalkbrenner too. Kalkbrenner's
just needs to stay in the game and use his fouls smartly.
Well, yeah, he's got to use his rebound. He got to use his body. He's got to use his size. He's got to use his athleticism, because he's a pretty athletic guy for 7 foot.
No question.
I think he's at one point he was near the damn top of blocks in the NBA. But he's a guy that can give you some quality minutes coming off the bench, and I think that's the biggest difference on where the Hornets are now, is that they can still get some scoring coming off the bench versus a guy like what was his name that we had coming off that just was awful, and I'm blanking on his name right now. Trey Mann. Trey Mann just needs to sit on the sideline. But when Trey Mann was coming instead of Kobe White, that was the difference in the bench scoring and where you're at then versus where you're at now.
Guy like Jeff Green, another guy off the bench whose minutes have kind of went away lately, but when we have played Miami this year, he has been a guy, because he is a very good defender, that we have used a little bit more.
Don't forget Sion James. That's what his specialty was.
Right, and Sion, look, he's the only player on the team that's played all 82 games. And as a rookie, that's pretty damn impressive. And again, he brings some toughness. Again, lacks a little experience. And they were leaving when we were playing. It wasn't the last 2 games, but the 2 before that, they were leaving him open from 3-point land. And I'm talking 10 feet without guarding him.
And he can make them.
He can make them, but he's gotten.
I mean, if I'm Sion James, I'm going to Steph Curry's coach, whoever that is, and I'm going to say all summer long. Yeah. And we're going to work on my shooting stroke.
Yep.
Right. And that's all I'm going to do is shoot threes from the outside. My defense isn't going to change. I'm still athletic, I'm still big, I'm still strong, still physical. But if I can start knocking those down, he could be a weapon eventually down the road.
I agree. And you know what? We're going to, some of these
rookies, he's just a 33%, 34% shooter.
If some of these young guys, I mean, for us to win, some of these young guys are going to, like you mentioned, Kalkbrenner, Sion James, are going to have to do something. And then, and obviously, listen, Con has had a record-breaking rookie season. He's been unbelievable, but the last 2 weeks, he's gotten tired. He hurt his back, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? The shot hasn't been the same. You could tell he just looks maybe a little tired. I've said that now for a couple of weeks. He doesn't get he gets a day of rest today after.
Yeah, I think all that. I mean, you're 18, you're 19 years old. I think that your body recovers pretty quickly at 19. So the fatigue, maybe if you're playing back to back towards the end, I know that there's probably mental fatigue on, gosh, this is such a grind, and you have to work your body and your mind into staying into it and being, a lot longer than you did in college basketball for sure. But these guys, all they do is play hoops, right? I mean, they've been doing this their entire life. And I know he's only 19 years old, but having a couple of days off to rest with all the treatment that he's going to be getting, he'll be ready to go, and his legs aren't going to be an excuse unless he's injured. Yeah. If his back is hurting, his back is hurt, then that's a different thing. But if it's just fatigue, makes cowards of us all, and he better learn how to beat that, because I think that that's one of those things that if this team is going to have a chance at all, he's going to have to be a guy that steps up.
Hornets -5.5. Who you taking?
I know who my heart wants to take.
Well, me too, but who you taking?
I'm taking the Heat.
I just think
I'm taking the Heat.
From a betting standpoint, you got to take them with getting 5.5 points. I just think you have to.
I mean, here's the difference, though, right?
And hope you lose.
If you're a better, I
hope you win by 2.
My mindset was I'm going to take the Heat on the money line and want the Hornets to win.
Yeah.
right? So even what I put on the
buying
Heat,
a win.
yeah, that's right.
Well,
I mean, but the odds for the odds purposes, it's plus 160. For the Heat at minus 5.5, 160, 165, somewhere around there, for them to win on the money line, which means they just have to win the game. But obviously, I would rather lose the $100 and have the Hornets win versus winning the 165.
I'm with you. And the other thing that we haven't talked about, and then I want to move on to the NFL draft, is that the other thing that's different in the playoffs, especially in the NBA, is the officiating. And the Hornets have not gotten to a level where we're going to get any favors from the officials, where Miami is
I don't know unfortunately, buddy. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that.
Finish your point, because I'm going to tell you what happened as a lifelong Suns fan.
I was just going to say that, when you're watching the game tomorrow, expect to get pissed off at the officiating, because we're not going to get the benefit of these calls against Miami. We're just not. So, in order for us to win, we're going to have to be on fire from 3-point land. Listen, we can do it. We're one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA. I can read you 15 stats offensively that would build a great story that we have a hell of a chance to do it. Obviously, the odds makers think we do. The fact that we're a 5.5-point favorite. So I think we definitely have got a shot. And if we win the game, I wouldn't be surprised. But as a better, taking the 5.5 or the money line is the smart bet, in my opinion.
Look at the regular season stats, right, versus the playoff stats, right? I think you can use the stats in the regular season to kind of get a gauge of what kind of team you have, but the style of play changes.
Sure does
in playoffs. So the reason why the Hornets are 5.5-point spread is because they've been blowing people out by an average of 19 points. And when they've been winning over the last month and a half, they have the highest win total of any team in the history of the game ever. So with the 19 plus 19.2 or whatever their differential is, that slows again. Those things slow down. To your point on the refereeing in playoffs, I honestly have thought this my entire life as a lifelong Suns fan. No matter how talented your team is, no matter how good if you're not a big city market team, you're going to be fighting the refs. If you don't have Michael Jordan in Chicago, if you don't have LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh in Miami, if you don't have the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, or Magic and Kareem, you're going to be fighting those teams. Houston, same type of thing. They're going to get, the Suns are never going to get the benefit of the doubt. The Hornets, because of Charlotte, is never going to get the benefit of the doubt unless they get a Michael Jordan.
Well, that's why you just have to. That's why they're going to have to play their A+ game. I mean, look, the defending champion right now is OKC. They're a market smaller than Charlotte. They've got the MVP. They got a ton of talent.
That's right.
And so you can overcome it. But
I'm not saying you can't overcome
that. It's tough.
I'm not saying you can't overcome it, but you better earn those. When you're getting fouled, you better be able to finish, because you ain't getting the call.
Right. No doubt.
All right. So you better be able to finish through the contact.
Well, I'll be there, and I'm excited. And, win or lose, I think everyone would say it's been a very positive season for the Hornets. The future is bright. Like I said, they have tons of draft assets. They got money. They've got a culture now that other players around the league have talked about wanting to come here, including a Kevin Durant kind of player. So, which is something they have lacked before. They've been the laughing stock of the NBA. Guys like Draymond Green would dump on him. Now he's even said the culture's changed there. This is a different organization. So the future's bright regardless.
If we're going to talk about that, when you look around the league right now, I think we have arguably one of the top 5 coaches, maybe coach of the year, with the Hornets coach. The organization, I don't feel like since I've been here in Charlotte, has ever had the direction and the type of players, the blueprint that they have right now, and they're sticking to it. Yeah. Right, the type of players they're getting in free agency or on trades, the type of players that they're bringing in, they're all going to be hard working, good shooters, high IQ basketball players, and that's really that play and are out there on the court and not sitting in the ice tub, right? So, I mean, that's I think a lot of young players in particular want to play and win those championships and play for teams that are building like that. I know when I was a free agent or when I was a senior in high school going to a college of my choice, I looked at that to say, okay, which team is on the come? What team is rising up?
100%.
Which team is building? And that's the reason why I chose the Huskies over anybody else, is because you saw what they were doing and what they had coming.
Yeah.
You saw the steam, you saw the momentum, you felt that. And when you went there was a real buzz. And I feel like, no pun intended for the Hornets, they have that real buzz going on right now.
They do. Let's talk about another team that's building and has gotten over, several hurdles last season, as the Hornets have as well, is Carolina Panthers. The NFL draft is in 10 days in Pittsburgh, and the Hornets come in with 6 draft picks.
Panthers.
Panthers. And their first pick in round 1 is 19th pick. They're going to have a lot of choices there. They've got several holes to fill. If you read all the draft analysts and all that thing, people think their biggest needs are safety, edge, and wide receiver. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Obviously linebacker, we signed Devin Lloyd as a free agent, which was a huge hole that we filled. I think tight end is still a huge need. And so what I wanted to do right now, and we'll dive into the draft deeper, obviously next week when we pretty much spend the entire show on it, but I wanted to just dive into a few things with you. If you put your GM hat on, you're Dan Morgan, and you're sitting there, and who knows who will be there at that point, right? What trades take place ahead of us, who falls in the draft, you never know. So I'm going to have you put your GM hat on, and wanted to ask you, and I'm going to ask about specific players, but first of all, let's start with positions. If your number one tight end, who everyone knows that Kenyon Sadiq is the number one tight end in this draft, every draft analyst will tell you that he's the number one guy. So if he's there, if you get one of the 3 or 4 wide receivers that people like and think will be first round picks, Lemon, Tyson, Cooper Jr., Concepcion, Boston, one of the offensive tackles where there's a good chance one of those guys could fall to us, Fano, Freeling, Miller, or one of the defensive ends, Howell from Texas A&M, Falk from Auburn, Messador from Miami. If one of those guys there, or if one of the 2 safeties, there's 2 great safeties in the first round. You got Thieneman from Oregon, who I love, and then you've got Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who never heard of him until all this draft stuff started going on. And the more I read and the more tape I've watched, kid's a stud. And then linebacker, really the only one I could see us taking at that point would be C.J. Allen, in the first round from Georgia, who I do like. But if you've got your GM hat and one of these guys,
you got to say, Caleb Downs too for the safeties as well.
I don't think I think he'll be gone long before.
No. I'm not saying you're right, but when you're talking about the top safeties,
that's why I didn't put him on, because I don't think he'll be gone.
You're just talking about guys in our range that
I think could be there. So let's assume that the majority of the guys that I just mentioned are there, knowing what this team still needs after a great free agency period, at least on paper. Where are you leaning?
Well, I think the Panthers are in a better position now than they were at the end of the season, because they filled some of those voids in free agency. Getting some linebackers, getting some depth. They got some offensive linemen as well to add a little depth to that after losing a couple of players. I think they're in the position where they can take best player available at the highest need, right? And that's the way you look at it. If I'm Dan Morgan, I'm looking at my roster and I say, okay, which guy on that board right there that I see is the best player, right? And how does that fit our need? Because I think that has to be factored into that.
Sure.
We're not going to go get we're
not taking a running back.
Or
if Jeremiah Love falls, they better take him.
Right. or a guard after paying our 2 guards that type of money.
Right.
If the best guard is available, he might be the best player on your board.
The best guard's from Penn State, and he could be available. You're 100% right. There's no way.
But I'm not taking him as a prospect. For the Panthers. That's just we don't have that need. So I factor those 2 things into it. And I think because of that, I think all those players kind of fall in that same category. They're going to be really good players. Who's going to be the most impactful, right? And I think that was the reasoning and rationale for taking Tech last year, was they felt like he could be the most impactful as a wide receiver. I look at position groups and I say, how do I rate impact? Quarterback, obviously, number 1 on the entire team.
Yeah.
Defensive end, I would say would be number 2, right? Do we have the bookend defensive ends that we're looking for? The answer is no. And there's a guy there. I'm taking defensive end. Offensive tackle, I would rank number 3, right? Protecting your quarterback. You already have the 2 interior guys. You have guys that can make plays. And then I go to either outside linebackers or corners. I would probably say corner would be the next impactful position.
And there'll be a couple. I didn't write that down, but there'll be a couple good ones there for sure.
And do we need corners? I mean, we Michael Jackson last year played really well. He earned himself a starting position. And I think he earned himself probably, one of the better corners in this division in particular. And he got better as the season went on. He fit what the mindset of what the coordinator was doing. So, I think that has become from one of the top priorities to maybe a little bit less because he was able to fill in. Now, if we're looking for nickel corners and things like that, then, so be it. But I still think that, I think we need another linebacker. I think we need another defensive tackle, and I think we need an offensive tackle. And, defensive end, if you saw, I think all the top guys are going to be there, but if one of those guys fell, the kid from Miami fell. If he fell, I'm taking him. I'm taking the defensive end. I would probably go from defensive end to wide receiver, from wide receiver to offensive tackle. Those would be my 3 needs.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. The only thing that I would probably say is with the holes that they filled in free agency on defense in particular, which we needed, right? Really, to me, the biggest glaring need on defense right now is another safety. I think we have to. Nick Scott, although he had
safety's not an impact position.
Well, I think in this defense, if we had the right one playing with Morgan, it would be. And
safety in any.
I think safety kills us a lot, and a lot of the games on this defense.
Well, there's a difference between.
I'm not saying they're going to take one, but I think that that's a position that will definitely be drafted in this draft or in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
There's a difference between safety as a position that kills you, right? When you don't have anybody there versus a position of impact. Safety does not.
For instance, if they were to add Thieneman at safety to play behind Morig, I think that would.
That's not an impactful position.
I disagree.
That's the reason why that's the reason why they don't get drafted number 1 overall. That's the reason
we're not picking number 1. We're picking 19.
I understand.
And at 19, and if you can get the best, one of the best safeties on the board,
if you're the best safety and the best player in the league, you're not getting drafted number 1 at safety.
Correct.
Right? Ever. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So,
but that at 19, if a guy that's going to come in and start that has the potential to be a stud, and you already got a guy in Morrig who's a stud, I think he's definitely going to be in consideration. I'm not saying they're taking him, but I think that will be consideration. My biggest 2 positions that I think they will take one of, and again, not knowing how high Dan is on any of these players, right? They keep it close, which they should. I've said all season long, I love Sadiq, the tight end at Oregon.
He's not going to be there.
The dude's. If he's there,
he won't be there.
4.3.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I mean, I know he's not 6'4", and Dan like 6'4", 10, he's 6'2", but he's fast, he's strong.
He can run the ball. He can run the ball. He can be in the backfield. He's a weapon. You can put him anywhere.
Bryce a weapon at tight end that he hasn't sniffed, and then the other one is receiver. And one of these receivers that I just named 5 of them. One of them will be there. Now, Lemon will probably go early. Tyson out of Arizona State looks to be ridiculously talented. However, he's hurt all the time, which would scare me, especially after taking James Brooks, 2 years ago, coming off the knee. So I would think they wouldn't take a chance on that, which would leave Cooper Jr. from Indiana, who I know you like a lot, Concepcion, who we both like a lot. He also brings the punt returning weapon that we've not had in forever, Charlotte kid, and then Boston, the kid out of Washington, who a lot of people love, who is another 6'4" dude that can run. And they like tall guys due to Bryce's lack of not being tall. So one of those receivers or Sadiq, to me, if I had to pick today, would be where I think they would go. But you mentioned offensive line. Icky is out for the beginning of the season. He also is up for a new big contract. They did fill that hole nicely in free agency. However, that's a 1-year deal. So if the right left tackle did fall to them, I would have no problem with it. Honestly, like you said, if they think the guy they're taking is the best player available, we've got enough holes to where you're not going to make me mad. If they took a defensive end or a safety, the only position that I would be befuddled on is what you mentioned, interior offensive line. I wouldn't. If they took a defensive tackle, the kid out of I think there's one out of Florida. There's the kid the kid out of Ohio State, McDonald, freaking house mover. If they took a guy like that and put next to Derek Brown, I'd have no problem with it. So my point of even talking about that is that they put themselves in a position to not have to draft for need. And because whatever position that we just went through and cornerback, I didn't write down, but that is a need, a nickel in particular. And
it's not impact.
It's not. But my point is, if they could draft one of those top 2 or 3 corners in the draft,
there's a reason why we're not talking about them, because they're going to be gone, because they're the position.
Every mock draft you read right now, the kid out of Tennessee who is a stud, but he's coming off ACL, which again is why I don't think they would draft him.
Hood, Colton Hood.
No, I think
that's a cornerback from Tennessee.
I don't think that's the one that I'm talking about.
Okay.
I think, and I have it written down, but it's not in front of me. I want to say it's McDowell. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but there's a kid out of Tennessee, but here's the other thing.
McCoy.
That's it.
Jermon McCoy.
Stud.
So they have 2 cornerbacks from Tennessee.
Yeah.
How did they lose a game? I mean,
right.
They got thrown the ball everywhere. They must not be. I mean, just because they run fast and jump high doesn't.
The problem is, I won't even get into that problem, because that would be a whole nother show. But and their quarterback threw a lot of bad interceptions. But anyway, we'll see. I'm excited about it. Listen, the draft is like Masters, because you're locked. At least the first they do it different now.
I mean, now that we're sitting talking through this a little bit, it's really kind of the first time we've talked about it, in a couple months or a couple weeks, excuse me, since the season was over. Is the more I think about the impact for this team, the position that they have to draft is likely going to be offensive tackle.
I mean, it makes sense.
Icky being injured. I don't feel like he is a multi-year stud left tackle that you're going to lock in and pay him big bucks. He's going to be a guy for the right price you keep, but you also want to have some leverage when you're trying to sign him. Right. And you get another guy with Moten too, that's towards the end of his career. You put a guy in there that can play either side. I think offensive tackle for the future of this team and for what this team needs would be the position I would draft.
Well,
first.
there should be at least 2 or 3 of these top guys there.
Proctor could be there from Alabama.
And Miller from Clemson. Both those guys will be there.
I mean, there's a lot of tackles that are going to be available. At 19. And the other thing that we haven't talked about is that if you want a guy like Sadiq, right, and you think that he's going to be the dynamic playmaker, and you feel comfortable with the moves you've made in the offseason, getting a little bit of depth, until you get, Icky back at left tackle. So you kind of buy time with the guy you have. And then when Icky comes back, he works himself into being that left tackle. Now you have a good depth. You have a good swing tackle and go either side. If you feel comfortable with that guy playing 2 or 3 games to start the season, then you go get the guy you want. You might go get a Sadiq, because if you're looking for impact for this offense, as what we were talking about, and a guy that is a big need for this offense would be that position, or it would be a burner, right? A guy that can just flat out fly. I know we had high hopes for the kid from Colorado last year. The problem is he could be wide open, running 3 yards past everybody and drop the ball.
Yep.
Right. So you can't count on him. Hopefully he's working on those things in the off season, but in big moments, I'm not looking at him if I'm Bryce. He dropped it towards the end of the season in a big crucial game.
Yeah.
The last game of the season, the end of the playoffs. Yeah. He was running across the field wide open on a little drag, hit him right in the hands. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
The ball hits, it drops, right? You can't trust a kid that is, not going to be, you only get a couple of those chances as a guy that's not drafted first, second, or third round. So, in big moments in particular, but if you feel comfortable with the moves you've made in the offseason, I could very easily see them going up and reaching and getting a linebacker from Ohio State. Or, I mean, I don't know if those guys are going to go 1, 2, and 3 because they're damn studs.
Yeah, I don't think those guys
those two linebackers might be the best linebackers being drafted. Gosh, and then Ray Lewis wasn't even that high. I mean, I don't know if there's been Lawrence Taylor played outside linebacker, but he was more of a rush guy.
Styles and Reese, who I can't see either one of them going lower than 5 or 6.
I can't either, but I mean, if
to trade up that high too, the bounty would be so big. I don't see, but I will say this: I could see him trading up to maybe 12 if there's a guy that they really want. And look, our next pick isn't until 51, so we have a long wait from 19 to 51. Dan has made trades in every draft, right? So
we have and we have draft capital towards the end of the draft, and you know what I mean.
We have 2 fifth-round picks.
You only have this starting quarterback for a year or two left on his rookie contract. And he's to the point right now where now it's time to put up or shut up, right? And, you know, he's had a good season. He's kind of gotten better every year. He starts off slow. He builds himself. He finds this will be the first time in a couple of years he's had some consistency with the coordinator.
Yeah.
So that'll help him hopefully a little bit. He has a reliable receiver in Tet. That'll help him a little bit that he can lean on. If you go get him a tight end, he kind of, you know, works himself into there. But you could go up and get a guy like Sadiq very easily if that's something that if that's a guy they fell in love with.
The other thing that would sway me towards offensive line would be, I mentioned, you know, Icky being hurt, but also let's say he comes back perfectly healthy, and let's say he is a guy they want to hang on to. He's going to get paid. If you draft the guy in the first round at left tackle, that saves you 4 more years of having to pay a guy where you can use that money.
That was my point. That was my point with drafting the left tackle earlier, is that now you have the ability to have a swing tackle with a guy out there. You don't have to pay Icky because he's not a cornerstone left tackle. He's not going to be a guy where it's Walter Jones and he's going to be out there. You don't have to worry about him ever again.
Right.
And you also have Moten on the other side that's
getting older
as well. So I think for me, again, the reason why I said what I said is because Icky's contract's coming up, which is going to be, you know, a $20 million a year deal. If he gets paid, if he's healthy and he plays well, right? You're going to need a guy to replace him. And you have, if you draft a guy to come in there and play, now he's competing at that left tackle spot and maybe getting some experience, you know, in there. And he can also swing to both sides, and you work yourself into, you know, some rotations. I think it'll be a guy that, you know, could be there for a long time to come.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And like I said, I feel Dan nailed the draft last year. At least after 1 year, we had a lot of contributions. You know, James Brooks comes back this year, hopefully completely healthy. And if he doesn't miss a beat, then he was a 2nd round pick 2 years ago. And that's like adding a 1st round pick, in my opinion, as an offensive weapon. But
I think the interesting guy that we haven't even talked about, you know, that could drop DJ is the Bain kid from Miami.
Well,
right, and I think
it came out the last couple of days that he was got cited in Miami for reckless driving.
Yep.
It killed a man.
Yep.
I don't know if he wasn't drinking, any of that. It was just a reckless driving accident. So I don't know if he'll fall that far. But here's the other part too. Dan
he's
Morgan,
already had there's already knocks against him, and
with his arm
with his short arms and playing that position, but the productivity on the film stands out like a sore thumb. Dan Morgan, Miami guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I said it's an interesting scenario, because if you remember, Warren Sapp, for smoking weed, dropped from a top 5 guy all the way to 14, 15, or maybe even lower than that, to Tampa, because of those off the field concerns that they had. So there's going to be some teams out there that may shy away from Bain, which may hurt his draft stock. He's still going to be a 1st round guy, but if you get him at 19, or say he's there at 17, and you really need some help, he's a guy you're going to plug out there and play. Not only that, if he falls, what is he going to have for the rest of his career?
Chip on his shoulder.
A damn chip on his shoulder. I'm trying to prove things wrong. Exactly right.
Can he reach the chip on his shoulder with his short arms? I don't know.
He's not a T-Rex.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I mean, he has normal size arms, not damn T-Rex. And even if he is, those damn things are ferocious, because they're going to find a way to use their heads and their teeth to get things done. And he's a predator.
And look, Messidor, his teammate, who is really good, probably there's a chance he'll be there too. So Dan's going to have a lot of tough decisions to make, but our scouting department has proven it lately, in particular, that they have a good grasp on this. And then look, there's the guys that we've been bringing in. We brought in Jolly, the tight end from NC State. We brought in the tight end from Alabama. So that, you know, we still can address these positions in 2nd round. Last year we got Scorton in the 2nd round.
Don't be surprised.
And Scorton was one of the better rookie defensive ends in the NFL this year.
Don't be surprised if they draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, 2nd, 3rd round. You know, to try to build in behind a young guy, to build behind Bryce as well.
So that I think there'll be a young quarterback on this roster for sure, whether it's drafted or whether it's a free agent that they sign, a rookie free agent. They have brought in Pavia, the quarterback from Vanderbilt. I don't see that as a fit. I know Dan wants a mobile quarterback, but you can't have a guy that's shorter than Bryce. They brought in
and kind of
wild card.
Well, he's not just a wild card. He was a cocky wild card.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he came into the end of the season.
The Heisman.
The Heisman acting like they owed him the Heisman.
No doubt. So, but they brought him in for a visit. They brought in King, the quarterback from Georgia Tech, who I do like. You know, he can run. He's big. He's got a good arm. So whether it's drafted or whether it's somebody they sign as a free agent after the draft, there's no doubt there'll be one of these young quarterbacks in the room. I totally agree with you. 10 days away. We'll be talking about it in a week as well. Enjoy your week. Let's go Hornets, everybody. If you're not going to the game, tune in. It's on national TV, so we won't get tomorrow night. Won't get to hear Eric Collins and Del Curry, which sucks if you are watching it at home. But we will be on national TV. Let's hope we fare better than we have in the past in these playing games, and at least force a second game. Give us something else to root for and talk about. Have a great week. Thanks, Big D. Appreciate you, buddy.